Okay, so, as previously stated, I'm very passionate about Halloween. And to celebrate this year, I've been watching Halloween specials that are very popular that I've never seen before. In case you missed it, my first adventure was to Halloween Town, and you can watch that video here. My next quest led me over the garden wall on a journey with Wirt and Greg. This review will be much happier than the last one because I absolutely loved this series. For those of you who have never seen it, it's composed of 10 episodes to make one season and is currently streaming on Hulu. There's also a short that came out a few years earlier that doesn't have the same plot, but it has the same characters, and there's also some graphic novels that I can't wait to get my grubby little hands on. You know, once my YouTube career takes off and I have some of that fabled disposable income I've heard so much about. Once again, I will tell you, if you have not seen Over the Garden Wall, go watch that first, especially in this case. I cannot stress this enough. Go watch it, then watch this video, as there will be spoilers. In this case, the spoilers may very well ruin your experience by revealing important events before they're made known to you in the series. Now let's get to it. Starting off, it's not very exciting. Each episode kinda has the ability to stand on its own without contributing much to the overall story. While it is building to that bigger overall story, it isn't really made known to the viewer yet, and you don't really know what that bigger overall story is. The first night of watching, it was easy for me to watch a few episodes, stop, and then go to bed. But once I got into the core of the story the following night, there was no chance that I was not binging that series to the end. And then I watched them again. Who needs sleep, right? Using the same order as my last review, let's start off by analyzing the characters. Greg is the single best child character in any movie or series ever in history. He's annoying and energetic, he never stops talking, and he makes up ridiculous songs that don't make any sense. Guess what? They don't rhyme or sound good. Because they shouldn't. Kids make up songs all the time, and they are not good. Although, for made-up children's songs, they are kinda catchy. He acts like a child should, rather than this overly mature version that we are fed so often. He does get into a lot of trouble along the way, but he's a good boy at heart. I don't want to say that Wirt is a typical teenage boy in love, because I love his character, and I don't want to pull away from that. He's the precursor to the early double-aughts emo with more of a nerdy twist. He loves poetry. He's very serious, and he acts more mature than he is. You can tell he has super low self-esteem, since he seems to hold Jason Funderburker on a pedestal. One of the best parts of the series is finally seeing Jason Funderburker and realizing that Wirt is not only, I don't want to say better than him, but also that Sarah, his crush, is not only not interested in Jason at all, but makes it very obvious that she is into Wirt. Easter egg. The name origin of Wirt is worthy. Wirt isn't portrayed as a brainiac per se, but he's certainly smart enough to make sound decisions throughout their journey, and grounded enough in logic to figure out the beast's ruse at the end. As far as Beatrice, I did not like her at first. I thought that the writers were going for like a breakaway of the friendly, helpful, talking bird character, and just made her catty and miserable to accommodate that. It was one of those times I was happy to be wrong. Her whole backstory supports the character you see in the beginning and paints her in a much different light. When she was trying to dissuade Wirt from going to Adelaide's, I will admit that I did not suspect evil. I could tell that she had grown to care about Wirt and Greg, and I assumed that she just didn't want them to go because she would miss them. The actual story was much better. I won't go through all the side characters, but there are a couple that I want to mention. The woodsman and the Beast. The woodsman comes across as this crazy old man, obsessed with keeping his lantern lit, which not only takes all of his time, but seems to be taking his sanity as well. Finding out the story behind the lantern and the reason for his obsession, it's both endearing and heartbreaking. Despite his love for his daughter, he works to protect Wirt and Greg even after Wirt suspects that he is the Beast. He even protests that one cannot trade the souls of children as if they were tokens when he finds out where the wood he's been using to keep the lantern lit comes from. The Beast is an evil entity villain. What I mean by that is some villains are born evil and some become evil. The Beast was born evil and survives only through the demise of others. While that is nothing particularly original, I found his character intriguing nonetheless. He goads the woodsman to keep the lantern lit, tricking him into thinking that it's the soul of his daughter, when actually it's his own soul. In this manner, he's achieved immortality without actually having to work for it. The woodsman would die before giving up on his daughter, and at some point, the Beast would just replace the woodsman with some other helpless wanderer, such as his proposal to Wirt. The woodsman and the Beast are great examples of a final point I want to make about the characters. Casting. The casting in this was phenomenal! Elijah Wood did the voice of Wirt, which surprised me. I thought it was the same voice as Dipper from Gravity Falls, because it really sounds the same. Christopher Lloyd, who's been playing crazy old men since he was in his 40s, did the voice of the woodsman. And John Cleese provided the voices for both Adelaide and Quincy Endicott. As impressive as all of these name drops are, it was nice to see that they were chosen for more than just their star status. Christopher Lloyd's performance as the woodsman wrenches your very core. His voice matches each separate feeling swirling through the character, from grief to fatigue to fear and desperation. Many of the characters, including the woodsman and Quincy Endicott, allowed this drawl in their voice that reflected the insanity of the world they were enveloped in. The Beast was voiced by someone whose name you might not recognize, Samuel Ramey. He isn't an actor, he isn't a voice actor, he's an opera singer. What better way to give life to a character that sings like the four winds? And Greg is voiced by a real, actual child. This may come as a surprise to you. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. But young boys are often voiced by women. That's how Bart Simpson has evaded puberty for going on 30 years. As much as I'd like to continue gushing about the characters and the casting, I need to leave enough time to go over the plot. Oh my god. As I said, the plot didn't immediately draw me in. They were just boys lost in the woods. Big deal. As the series goes on, there's more pieces of the puzzle presented. The next to the last episode, which is the prequel to the first, opened my eyes to things I hadn't considered. I assumed that Wirt and Greg were residents of some time period in the past. That still seems to be true, but I guess I was thinking it was sometime like, before the 1970s. Wirt's outfit made him look like some kind of wizard's apprentice, so all the magic-y stuff that happens along the way didn't seem as out of place for the viewer as when you find out that he's just wearing a Halloween costume. It also doesn't help that he's constantly talking in poetry. The side plots are perfectly entertaining as you follow Wirt and Greg on their journey, combining lovable characters with unique circumstances. The pumpkin-covered skeletons, the rich tea entrepreneurs in love, the possessed young girl enslaved by a bell. They were all delightful to watch, and they distracted me from the underlying story as much as they did the main characters. A lot of times in a series with a main plot, I grow tired of the mishaps and stumbles along the way. I just want them to get on with it. I didn't feel that way in this series. There was enough to keep me engaged, whether the action was part of the long-term plot or the short-term story. Pacing was a big kicker for me in the last review, which is why it got its own section, but the pacing in Over the Garden Wall was just right. And the throwback episode was perfectly placed in the series to answer all the questions before the big finale. The ending, though, the ending! Greg figures out that the beast thrives on hopelessness and refuses to give up, forgetting that he also thrives on illness. Wirt figures out that the beast was keeping his own soul alive in the lantern and lying to get other people to tend to it for him. What a twist! But seriously, how cool! Thinking back to the guy in the tavern when they ask for directions, who delivers the overly cheesy line about all he has to do is follow his heart. He was totally right! Wirt and Greg only had to believe they were leaving the unknown to get out of it. And the less they believed that, the more entwined with the realm they became. And then when they wake up in the hospital, it makes you wonder, well, did any of it actually happen? I have to be honest, I wouldn't have liked it as much if it had been a dream. When Greg mentions the frog's name, and you see the bell glow in his tummy, it sealed the deal for me. The unknown is real, and they really went there. To see that everyone gets a happy ending, except the beast, is so wonderful. I'm not a fan of happy endings for the sake of happy endings, but let's be real. We all want to see everyone get a happy ending. I only wonder if Lorna and Wirt will meet each other again with Sarah around. Would that be awkward or what? Overall, this show was the best piece of performance art I've seen in a good long while. And I didn't even mention the music. It's great, and I can't describe it in terms that'll bring it justice. The Beast tune is reminiscent of Oh Holy Night, and that brought a tear to my eye. I love that song. I know this video wasn't nearly as comical as my last review, but how can I joke about such a marvelous creation in a sea of mundane repetition? Anything I watch can be described as being like something else. Over the Garden Wall is unlike anything I've ever seen, and probably will see ever again. Beautiful. Beyond compare. Well, I think I'm going to fix myself a bowl of pumpkin frozen custard and watch all 10 episodes again. Until next time.